the past 20 years what's happened when we funded first just enough to spur a whole generation of new technologies that are moving into the exon skipping field. We're excited for exon skipping as a standalone product, also potentially to be a complementary product with gene therapy at some point. And so based on all these companies, I think we have more and more hope that it's going to be a bright future. I am going to now, so because of our scientific team, we've been able to help a lot of these companies, work with them as they're developing their programs, and more importantly, fund the early research. I've talked about our great science team with Mike and Liana and Poting. I haven't mentioned yet our medical team with Patricia Brown, who's a nurse, and Doug Levine and Jennifer Wallace, who many of you know are physical therapists that are dedicated to the Duchenne community. And I have the distinct honor of introducing Doug Levine, who's been with Cure Duchenne for multiple years and has been so instrumental, not just in helping families with their physical therapy, professional education, but also is a bit of a globetrotter and is traveling the world to help the country or the world know about physical therapy for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Doug?
Thank you. Thank you. Don't do that. Don't do that. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here, as Deborah said. Myself and Jennifer Wallace are physical therapists with Cure Duchenne. Just real quick, how many, if you guys can just raise hands, how many of you either myself or Jennifer know, or you guys know us? Okay, so, well, no, that wasn't the intent of it. But what I wanted to know, that what we're going to be talking about now is embracing our future, embracing the future. So we know a lot of you guys in various ways. We've seen you guys in clinic. We've sat with you and had conversations with you. We've talked on the phone. We've troubleshooted. We've cried with you. We've celebrated the good things. We understand that this is an up and down, that when we're talking about embracing our future, it's not all bad, it's not all good, it's not all roses. And the future looks good, but we have to embrace everything that comes with it. And embracing it means having a sense of acceptance and moving forward. Doesn't mean negating all the bad stuff. So I see that in working with you guys and in talking with you guys. And I have the distinct pleasure of knowing the next 4 people. These gentlemen are incredible people, and in my opinion, really are embracing their future. They're doing amazing things in all different ways. So I'd like to ask them to come up. And so we have Hawken Miller, we have Jake Morazzo, we have Dr. Ryan Russell, and DJ Kimball was, so he's going to be, we have his, what he wanted to let you guys know about embracing our future. He pre-recorded that. He was supposed to be here, but kind of at the last minute was not able to be here. So I'd like to ask all of them to come up, and I want them to share a little bit about what embracing the future means to them, and we're going to have a little bit of a discussion, and there might be a little bit of time for questions. So we'll have them come up. So we have Dr. Ryan Russell, Jake Morazzo, and Hawken Miller, and I think most of you guys know most of them. They're definitely celebrities. So just in terms of keeping it real, embracing our future, I mean, this is real life. We had a conversation right before we came up here, and it was kind of a deep conversation about who peed before they got on stage. Did you make sure you go? Do I have time to go before you go? So that's real life. That's the present. That's the future. So Hawken, we'll let you go ahead and speak first.
I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see all of your beautiful faces and also my slides. Yeah, so you might know me as Hawkenator. I am currently actually as some of you might know, I just started working for Permobile as a content marketing strategist, and I've already captured some awesome footage of you guys in your Permobiles. And if you haven't participated, please, that's my plug real quick, please come and see me, and we can make you famous on our social channels. Anyway, I'm 27 years old. I'm from Newport Beach, California. Obviously, before Permobile, I worked at Curie Duchenne. I've been intimately involved with Curie Duchenne, as you can imagine, for the past 21 years. And before that, I worked at BioNews as a features writer. And then before that, I interned at the Washington Post. So we're talking about embracing our future. And for me, part of that is relationships and navigating that. And I have to say, it's probably one of the most important things. And I think both of these guys can attest to it, to have that support system. And I was able to find that through actually my roommate, who I found on Facebook Marketplace, which is a little bit shady, but
But it worked out, right? It worked out.
But he was great because he was able to come on and help, you know, primarily be a roommate. And he's kind of been, you know, just someone I can hang out with and just spend time with and just have that relationship with. And then he introduced me to his church and his home group. And just having people to do life together with is super important. They can be there for you when you can't be for yourself. And like we've talked about this a lot, it takes a village. And I think the biggest thing is, the question I guess, like, how do you find those relationships? How do you find those friends? And my biggest advice would be just to do the things that you're really passionate about. If you're into board games, you can join a board game club. If you're into video games, obviously, go on different Discord channels and find people through that online. You know, for me, it was church, but there's so many other different unique things that can bring people together that you can find in common and really create those friendships. And having a family of your own is something that is possible. There are older men with Duchenne that do have that. Like Ryan recently got married, so it's a beautiful thing that I would say, just because you have Duchenne, don't tell yourself that you can't have these things, because you truly can have those things, and that is very important as well. And, well, you may ask, okay, well, to start a family, I need to find someone to start that family with, right? And so it kind of goes back to finding places where you're really passionate about something and find other people like that. You know, there's also dating apps too. I know there's specifically dating apps for people with disabilities. And I think, you know, for a while I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. But I think for us, we kind of have to get creative about, my dad always says, fishing where the fish are. And so that's something you have to think about as well. And yeah, so these are just some photos of some of my friends throughout the years at USC, through high school. And, I've also been able to make really great friends with some guys with Duchenne. And you can see Sue Hale there, who he passed away recently, but that was just such a close friendship that I really cherish. And you can see also up there, we're all wearing our blue Curie Duchenne shirts. And just to have those guys come alongside me and help raise money for Curie Duchenne and raise awareness for World Duchenne Day. And then on the bottom there is my good friend Leo, who has cerebral palsy. And it's not the same diagnosis, but we go through a lot of the same things. And it's been really great to be able to feed off of our own experiences and learn from each other and all of that.
Thank you.
And then quickly wanted to touch on preparing. Part of embracing our future is preparing for the future, and whether that's college, whether that's a trade school. And I believe college is great for a lot of people, but it's not for everyone. And so trying to figure out kind of where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, where your passions lie, focusing on the things that you're good at and that you can do, and finding the intersection there. I would also say finding reliable caregivers, as both of these guys can also attest to, is very important, and really making a schedule for them and making a schedule for yourself and preparing these things, because you have to figure out when you can use the bathroom, like when are you gonna have your caregivers come in. And so it's actually a good learning experience in like how to manage other people, I would say. And so I think the biggest thing with caregiving is just to have open communication with that person, and they can't read your mind, so you got to be over communicative sometimes, and that's really important as well. And then finding that caregiver too is someone that you don't necessarily have to be friends with them, but you have to connect on some level, because they are helping you with very intimate things. And I joke about this with them, is like they're preparing me for when I get married, because I'm going to be with this person all the time, and we're going to have to like interact and deal with all these frictions that we have as, you know, just people living together. So, and then there's also being able to find a job, and I think what's great now is a lot of employers are allowing you to work from home and have that flexibility that you need when you're navigating doctor's appointments and different situations. And so those are kind of the main things for preparing for the future. And then, so there's just some photos of me in the KTLA newsroom where I interned at USC, and then the center bottom photos at the Washington Post. And that's just, I really like the photos because I really want to show you guys that all of this is possible. I'm not going to tell you that it's easy by any means, but I'm going to tell you that it is possible, and that you have to think about problems creatively and learn how to solve them as well. And then the last thing for embracing my future that's really important to me is independence, and being able to make your own medical decisions, and kind of, you know, as parents, letting go a little bit sometimes, and letting your kids kind of make mistakes and figure out their doctor's appointments and all of those things is really important. And you don't have to do it all at once, but kind of getting them ready for that when they are adults and they do have to advocate for themselves to prepare them for that. And then I also wanted to say that living on your own is entirely possible when you have that system of caregivers in place, which, you know, it's not going to be immediate. Sometimes it takes a while to get those right people and figure out that schedule. But I've been able to do it. Like my roommate is kind of is there to fill in the gaps, and, you know, just kind of be a friend as well. And then I have caregivers living with me basically 24/7 and taking care of me. And then I would also say finances are really important. As all of you know, having Duchenne is expensive, and, you know, there's a lot of like prescriptions that you have to buy. The wheelchair accessible vans are super expensive, and things like that. So it's important, and that goes back to finding a good job. And there are a lot of them out there, and there are a lot that don't require a lot of physical activity. So it is entirely possible, and you have to, you know, think about these things. They may not be comfortable conversations, but part of becoming an adult is taking on responsibilities and being in charge and being ready to lead your family. So I would say those are very important things and entirely possible to live out if you want to be independent. Yeah, and I put my photo of my fracture, which I think a lot of us can relate to. And you really have to advocate for yourself. And, you know, I was contacting my doctor, Dr. Wong, back in UMass for that, and just being able to advocate for yourself and be like, hey, like, this isn't working for me, this is what I need. And then, yeah, shout out to my caregiver, Henry there, that helps me stretch through his company, Sky Home Health, and I've been able to find caregivers through that, and it's worked out really well, and they've been able to kind of drive me places and kind of be there sometimes if I just need someone to talk to and help me out and whatever I need. So I'm really appreciative of them, and obviously Dr. Wong, you can see there, and all of the people that help me, and also you can see Jennifer there helping me get positioned for my custom seating for my Permobile. So it really does take a village, and you have to rely on other people, and you have to be willing to ask for help. And that's a little bit about how I'm embracing my future. Thank you.
That's awesome. Hawken, thank you. That's, I just saw a common theme in there. It seemed like with everything, communication, flexibility, and then, you'll also see after Jake and Dr. Russell talk that there's not one pathway to embracing your future or finding your way or what you want to do. I mean, you have to kind of, it sounds like you've tried lots of different things to see what stuck in terms of routines and what you liked, and so I think that's fantastic. Jake, do you want to share a little? Are you guys okay if I move closer? I feel this is like awkward. I'm all the way over here. Okay. All right, Jake, go ahead.
Well, hi everyone. I'm really happy to be at Futures this year. I've seen so many new faces, and I'm so pleased to be here and to meet some new people and reconnect with people I already knew. I learned that the mascot of Cure Duchenne's name is Exxon, and I've been hearing a lot about Exxon skipping, but he doesn't have legs, so I think he'll just probably float, so I don't think he'll be skipping. Terrible joke aside, I'm going to talk a little bit about my story and what it is I do and what I've done and will continue to do in embracing my future. So I'm an author. I'm a rising college senior. I just finished up my junior year. I'm studying film and new media studies at Wheaton College, Massachusetts. I've published 2 children's books. The first one, One Wants to Be a Letter, is about embracing uniqueness. And The Dilly Dally Parrot is about time management and helping kids with that. And I live by the motto, don't live the diagnosis, live the life, which is so important, and I'm going to get a little bit more into that. And together with my family, we helped found the For Jake's Sake Charitable Foundation, helping families living with Duchenne, making their homes and lives more accessible. So, as Doc Brown says on there, I've always dreamed of seeing the future as well, but we can't really see what the future looks like. We can only envision it and plan for it, like what Hawken was saying. But in order to look to the future, we have to look a little bit to the past. So that's what I'm going to do right now and talk a little bit about my journey. So I was diagnosed with Duchenne at 8 years old, and if you know anything about Duchenne, that is a little bit of a late diagnosis. And the diagnosis at the time gave me a sense of relief because at the time when I could walk, I ran a lot slower than the other kids. And I was wondering, this has to be something wrong with me. How can I fix this? What can I do differently? But then the diagnosis told me that, no, it's not your fault. And, that this, that it's harder to do these things. And so I was in a wheelchair by age 12, and I have been since. And then Googling Duchenne, which I wouldn't recommend doing that. And the CEO of Google, I highly doubt that they're listening, but please update your search results. They are so outdated. Please, please. And that sort of leads a little bit into my journey to acceptance, which was a long journey. I think for any of us, it's a hard journey accepting who we are, but I think especially for us, and I'm sure Ryan and Hawken can attest to that. And I can't say that every day is easy because it's not. I like to be real, and sometimes being real means being negative. And sometimes there are negative days. But, I like to live every day the best I can and, try to go into every day with a positive attitude, which is hard to do sometimes, and it's much easier said than done. But it's what I really try to do when I wake up in the morning is say, how can I make today even better than yesterday? A little bit about my children's books. I've published 2 of them. One Wants to Be a Letter is about the number 1 who feels left out about all of his friends being letters and wants to be just like them. And there's a little bit of foreshadowing in that because I feel the same way about me wanting to be like my able-bodied friends. But the journey to acceptance is accepting the fact that we are different and to embrace our uniqueness and what makes us different. And so I've read both of my children's books to kids, which has been so fun, one of the best parts of this journey. And the kids have just been so adorable and ask me the most adorable questions. So it's been a really fun experience. And then speaking of the younger generation, my nephew also has Duchenne muscular dystrophy. His name's Tyler, and he is just the sweetest, most hyperactive kid ever. I haven't really had a full-on conversation with him about Duchenne, but I most definitely will be in the future as he gets older and as he understands the disease and what it might entail. Then starting the LLC, to go back a little bit, that is the company that I've been writing my children's books through, and I do want to transition it someday into a film-based company, since that's more what I'd like to go into as a career. And then speaking of film, I've actually been in the process of writing a series that I'd love to pitch someday to Netflix or HBO Max, and I'm really excited about it. The first episode is already finished, and I love writing because it allows me to take my experiences that I've dealt with and put that into characters. When I'm really struggling sometimes, writing is such a big outlet for me, and that's something I want to say to all of you living with Duchenne, is that try and find an outlet to be able to take your lived experiences and make something awesome out of it, and make something that you can celebrate and you can share with people. Takeaways for parents. The biggest thing I'm going to say is let them spread their wings, man, which is a quote from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, if anyone's ever seen that. But it's true. I think it's really important to let your kids blossom and go out. And, you know, like Hawken was saying, college is a really good thing, but you don't necessarily have to go to college because it's not for everyone. And, you know, that system doesn't work for all people. So it's really important to me, you know, going to college, I've been, you know, so much more social, and it's been just such a great experience for me to just, you know, leave the nest and be able to just sort of find myself and find my people and just really start living my life the way I want to on my own terms. So that's something that's really important to me. And that sort of gets into some takeaways for the next generation. I would just say to you guys that us with Duchenne are such resilient people, and you can do anything that you set your mind to, as long as you find creative ways to adapt. And even if something doesn't work, you should still try. Try everything and see what works, and you can do it. I did it. I'm living proof that it's possible. It's all possible. I did it, and you can too. So that's how I embrace my future. Don't live the diagnosis, live the life. I have all these pictures of some of the things I've done and some of the things I will do, and I'm just so proud of the life I've lived so far, and I can't wait to continue embracing the future. And it's gonna be a really, really long future because I have a lot of stuff to do, and I'm gonna do them.
And okay, so Hawken, I don't know where your parents are. I'm sure they were doing the same thing. But if you guys could see from here, we have these really bright lights that are shining in our eyes. It is nothing compared to Jake's parents that are sitting in the front. And like I was watching them, and the light coming off of them is far superior to any of these. So I think they're really proud of you. They really do. Dr. Russell?
All right, thank you.
You're up.
Well, I am excited to be here, definitely. And as you can see on my slide, as of April 20th, I'm a husband. And I also am a father now. I'm a life coach, a speaker, and an author. So I will be 42 in August, and you see all these achievements, things I've done. I have a PhD in psychology as well, and I spent 14 years going to school. And here's the fun thing about that. I don't actually like school. But I have always had a hope for things, something I talk about a lot as a life coach with my company Life on Positivity, is hope and purpose. I've always believed that I would live just a normal life. I plan to live to 100. I was born in 1982. So someday on my headstone it's going to say Ryan Russell, 1982 to 2082, hope and purpose was what got him through things. And so since I'm the old man up here, I've seen a lot of things, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but it hasn't always been easy. I look back at life. I've made a lot of times. I've made 5-year goals, and I always usually met those goals, just never in the way I expected, and always not in the most pleasing manner. I lived with my parents for quite a while, till I was 38 years old, and they passed away. And a lot of things in my life that I didn't understand why they happened before. They came to meet more when that happened. But before they passed away in 2019, because of government limitations, things like that, I was doing things and I wasn't quite sure how I was going to move ahead. And one day, a friend, because my parents were sick, drove me to a doctor's appointment. I had to drive 2 hours. And we thought, hey, let's go check out these modern handicap conversion vans. My van is a big full-size van that had just a lift in the back. I rode in the front seat, which I hadn't done in years because they were able to take it out. And in that little 2-minute drive, I thought, what am I doing? It's time to change my life. Time to really start living and not worry about limitations. I was working on a PhD. I probably could have finished it in 5 years, but it took me 7 because I'd get there and my parents would be in the hospital at different times. They were older when I was born. And one of the biggest blessings of my life was the opportunity to, after they took care of me, to take care of them. In 2020, I got my degree, a PhD in psychology, and my parents got to see that, which made me very happy. That was about June of 2020. My mother and I even did a YouTube show with somebody that asked us to be on, and she talked. Then a week before Christmas of 2020, both of my parents fell, and my mother would go on to pass away in June of complications from diabetes, and my dad in October because of dementia. And the great blessing of my life is being able to take care of them and make sure that they had care of their final days. Those were some hard times. It was hard to remember what my hope was and my purpose was. My purpose has always been to help other people. And I've always wanted to become a husband and a father someday. In fact, the reason I spent 14 years in school is I thought, okay, I can get these degrees and I can help people. Maybe it'll help me be a better husband and father someday. And that's where I was. In October of 2020, I started my life coaching business. Everything is going great. I thought, hey, look at this. We're making it through 2020. No problems whatsoever. Then, like I say, my parents fell. So in 2021, after they were both gone, I had times where I thought, I just got to ask out loud, ask God, why didn't you take me too? It was just, what was I going to do? I had family, but, it was just different. And I went through a lot of challenges I never expected to face. In fact, I remember one time I lived by a highway and I thought, just for a brief second, how easy it'd be just to drive out there in front of a semi-truck. And, but because of my past, because of my hope and my purpose, I didn't do that. And I started finding ways to help people. One of the biggest things that helped me was, like Jake said, I started writing. And I wrote a book called Rectify the Avenging Angel. And after I was done, I realized, basically, I wrote a book about what I thought I'd be like if I didn't have Duchenne. And some ways he was different, in some ways my character and I are the same. But I held on, I kept hoping, and I became active in the Duchenne community. Believe it or not, I hadn't met anybody else with Duchenne until I was 38 years old. And so, just living in a small town, that's the way it was. And then my whole world opened up and I met other people that had the same thing I had. And my life coaching kind of had to stand still. My writing had to stand still. I promise book 2 is coming out. And I was doing really well last summer. I was working on getting a real estate license. I was working on getting selling life insurance. And I was doing really well in that book. I went to another conference last summer, and I was trying to sell my books. And I met this woman that we'd talked a little bit on Facebook from time to time, because I would do something called the Duchenne Life for family friends at Duchenne on Thursday. And so we met at that conference, we talked, and we took a picture, and I said, oh, here's my number so you can text that to me. She texted me the picture, and I texted her July 12th, and we've talked every day since that. And we talked, and she has a son that has Duchenne also. April 20th, we got married, and that's when I became a husband. And I'm a father to a son with Duchenne. And I have a daughter now, too. Oh, and I can't forget my 4 cats and my dog. So I'm very happy with where I am now and where I'm going. But all of you out there, don't think that just because we're at where we are now, that means it was all easy. Some of you parents out there, you might be thinking, well, I can't provide some things for my child that maybe other parents can. The most important thing you can provide, though, is love, support, and helping your child to learn some independence so that they're not like me in their late 30s trying to realize, oh, my mom's not here to sort my laundry anymore. I got to figure that out. And even though you might have some hard times, your 5-year goal may have some shortfalls, and it might take 6, maybe 10 years. You can still meet every goal that you set. I learned to make goals at an early age. I became an Eagle Scout. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get a degree. And I thought, I'll be the first one of my family to get a bachelor's degree. Then I was the first one of my family to get a master's. Then I thought, I could be a doctor, but I don't know, it just seemed kind of strange to me. And I looked for 5 years and nothing. Then I went to a family reunion, and the cousin asked me, well, why don't you go get your PhD? And, oh, I tried, there's nothing there. And he said, why don't you look again? I spent a day or two searching and found nothing, went to bed thinking, it's just no use, because I need it all online. The next day I woke up, something said, check your junk email. What? Yeah, check your junk email. And, usually you get some weird stuff in there. And I don't need anything in large, thank you. But look, and there's an email from a college, and I'm like, what? I checked it out, it was legit, and 7 years later, and mishap and some, anyway. I accidentally changed my majors in the middle. I think somebody made a mistake, but it all worked out, and I'm happy. And just know that you may be the lowest you've ever felt. You may feel like there's no way out, but if you hold on, you continue, you fight, you have your purpose in mind, everything's going to work out for the good. And you're going to have an impact on the world. And it may not be the way you want, or the way you expected, but know that you can do good, whoever you are, wherever you are, and in whatever situation you are. And that's the greatest way to embrace your future is to help other people. Thank you.
That's amazing. You did warn me to maybe bring some tissues up on stage before I came, so you were right. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from DJ Kimball, I think.
Thank you, Doug and Jordan, and thank you all for being here with us today, as we share with you just how truly important it is for us to not only accept a future with Duchenne, but to fully embrace it. My journey with Duchenne began almost 42 years ago after my parents noticed that I wasn't able to do many of the things that my brother was. As they shared their thoughts with my pediatrician, it was also apparent to them that something just wasn't right. So, as for many of us, including myself at that time, it was the CK test first, which was abnormally high, followed by a muscle biopsy that confirmed it was Duchenne. After the doctors explained the diagnosis and all seemed lost, my mom decided that would not be my life, and that I would have as much of a normal life as possible. Despite the many unknowns of Duchenne, I believe that decision was the best decision she could have made for me. Without having that very foundation, I'm not sure I would be who I am today, and I'll always be grateful for that beginning. With that, my childhood was fairly normal. I was able to do many of the things that my brother, my cousins, and the other kids were doing, but I have always known I was different. Did I fully grasp what that ultimately entailed for me? I would say, of course not, although it did become clear to me pretty early on, much earlier than I'm sure my parents or anyone else knew or believed. As an example, when I was 7, I experienced quite a poignant moment in my life that allowed me a small glimpse into what my future entailed. It was an innocent moment, I thought at first. I, along with my cousins and brother, were going on a walk, and as we began our walk, one of my cousins pushed me to the ground and whispered to me that I wasn't allowed to go because his mom had said that he couldn't get close with me since I wouldn't be around long. At first, I was a little uncertain about exactly what he had said. I can remember sitting there on the ground, thinking, if that is true, then what was I doing experiencing any life at all? Wouldn't that also make it that much harder for me to accept? I could have fully chosen right then and there to listen to my cousin, to never experience what life could be. Or I could choose to embrace what my life is and what the future holds, to experience as much of it as possible. And that's what I did. I picked myself up, brushed my knees off, and asked everyone to wait so I could catch up and continue on. As childhood continued, I would come to experience many new challenges from Duchenne that many of us do during this time in our lives. That would truly test me, beginning with losing my ability to walk and transitioning into using a power chair, which I subsequently fell out of, breaking both legs, placing me in a full body cast for 3 months, followed by a spinal fusion and a double Achilles lengthening procedure. All this happened within 2 years. It was a very challenging time. I spent more time in bed recovering from all the various events than I did in my wheelchair. I began to question many things, including my abilities, my perseverance, and even at that age, life itself. But at the same time, I also learned much more about who I was. I learned that my hope, my curiosity, and my need to know what life still held for me was nearly unbreakable, despite everything seemingly to work against me. as my life was transitioning from childhood through adolescence. I felt that everything I had experienced as a child would have helped to make everything so much more manageable as a teen. But I failed to foresee just how much more of a role emotions and perception, both inwardly and outwardly, would play in my life. Adolescence began with a new school with new students who knew absolutely nothing about me. I found myself struggling daily just to feel accepted and to feel like I belonged, and honestly, I rarely did. But I did have one saving grace during this period in my life, and that was my best friend Clay. He had been my best friend since kindergarten. He was one of those very special individuals that we all need in life. During this transition, Clay agreed to be in every one of my classes to help me with anything I may need. But during this chapter of my life, his presence provided me with something that was much more invaluable. He allowed others to see beyond my wheelchair, beyond my disability, and beyond the stigma that persists in society, to simply see me. Because of that simple, unknowing gesture, I was able to develop a small group of friends who helped me find my way. Their acceptance allowed me to persevere through the many challenges of adolescence. If not for Clay and my other friends, just simply being there and helping me see that everything is possible when we have a support system that we can lean into when we need that extra boost of encouragement and confidence in ourselves. To do all things, I would have never had the opportunity to finish high school, and for that, I'll always be eternally grateful. As the end of high school neared and most of my classmates were planning their future as adults, I found myself in a rather uncertain place. Living life as an adult with Duchenne, when I was finishing high school in 1999, was still a novel concept. It wasn't a part of life that many planned for. There weren't any real, tangible opportunities for me to go to college or have a job. I still had hope and a need for wanting more out of life. My curiosity for knowledge was still alive and well, but there weren't any opportunities to facilitate that for me. I spent the next year just going through the motions of life, trying to find my place as an adult. I no longer had the structure of a routine in my life, or any form of motivation propelling me forward. In a sense, I guess you could say I was lost in trying to find my purpose. I mean, there just has to be more, right? I just needed a sign, or something to show me exactly what that was. Little did I know that the sign I received would ultimately lead to me finding my true self, but with the caveat that it would also be the biggest challenge of my life, too. Almost exactly 1 year after graduating high school, I experienced a medical emergency that changed everything. I can remember waking up and not feeling very well at all. It was a Thursday morning in May, this very week, 24 years ago. I had been fighting a bit of a chest cold, but nothing I hadn't experienced before. After getting up and situated, I began feeling a little better. It was my mom's last day of work, and I was going with her as I often did. As we came to the end of our road, we stopped for a moment to discuss how I was feeling. My mom begrudgingly asked if it was okay to continue, or did I feel I needed to go to the doctor. As I paused to think, I couldn't shake the feeling that something just wasn't right, so I suggested we go to the doctor's office. Thankfully, we did, as I lost consciousness shortly after and woke up at the hospital as I was being transferred from the ER to the ICU with acute pneumonia. I was intubated and on a ventilator, and it was almost 3 weeks before I finally recovered from the pneumonia and the doctors decided to extubate me from the ventilator. At first I did pretty well, but as the day went on, my breathing began to diminish, and with my CO2 increasing, the medical team decided to proceed with another emergency intubation. My parents had already left for the evening. I was alone and panicking, as I wasn't sure what was happening, and the next thing I remember is waking up being back on the ventilator. The following morning, after a discussion with the doctor, I was taken to surgery to have a tracheostomy, and from that very moment my life changed forever. The independence I cherished. Never could I be alone again, reliant on a machine to keep me alive, exasperated by the anxiety that followed and ultimately the loss of my voice. My last connection to the outside world was seemingly gone forever. No longer would I be able to communicate with anyone besides my mom. It had taken away any privacy in almost every relationship. I became isolated. I lost a part of me, and I felt so much more alone. For the next 15 years, this was my life. I remember feeling like the world was just passing me by, and my days were filled with constant regret. Regret that I hadn't done more of what I dreamed of in my life. But the one thing I never lost was my hope. it hadn't vanished completely as my life seemingly had. Although it escaped my reach many, many times, I truly knew it was still with me. Along with that very same need that I've always had for knowing what the future held. I have heard it said that the future waits for no one, but I can tell you that it absolutely does. It did for me. When I was at the lowest point in my life and ready for it to no longer be, I was introduced to my Obi-Wan by two very special individuals, and that's eye gaze technology, which has shown me the way. By giving back my voice, by opening up the entire world for me again. And most importantly, it has allowed me to fully embrace my future by helping me to finally discover what my true passion in life is. And that's utilizing my life experiences to help others by being an advocate for our Duchenne community, by working each and every day to improve every aspect of our lives and the lives of everyone affected by the diagnosis through knowledge, understanding, inclusion, and most importantly, hope. Because hope has no boundaries. Hope is limitless. And above all, hope is attainable for each one of us. And with hope, we're all fully able to embrace our futures. Because of Duchenne.
Thank you, DJ. It's nice to have him here with us. I just wanted to, I think we have like 5 or 10 minutes, and I had a couple of questions that I was going to maybe ask, but I want to throw that out. I want to give it to you guys. If you have any questions for these gentlemen that, that you would like to ask about anything that they talked about. Yeah. Hang on, we got a microphone coming.
Hi, my name is Gabby. If I get a little bit emotional, sorry. I'm a mom of 2 boys with Duchenne. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for giving me the dream, the hope for my boys. Because there has been many nights that I haven't been able to sleep thinking, what is going to happen to my boys in the future? They're 4 and 8. And you guys have given me hope, given me the strength to fight for them, like your mothers have. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for living. Thank you for showing that. I know it sounds a little bit ignorant, because sometimes we forget that disabilities don't hold us back. They make us stronger. They make us more as a fighter. And I just want to ask Jake, I'm trying to write children's books of the adventures my little boys, well, actually the trouble they get into. Because even if they have Duchenne, that doesn't stop them from getting in trouble. And I want to know, how did you go about starting your books and sharing your stories?
So I came up with the idea for One Wants to Be a Letter, the first children's book, when I was 4 years old. So that was before I was diagnosed with Duchenne. And that's why I'd said there was a little bit of foreshadowing in that, because we hadn't even heard of Duchenne at the time. So it wasn't until 2020 that a publisher reached out to us and wanted me to be a part of a book about inspirational disabled people. And I'm not sure if that book was ever made, but we suggested for One Wants to Be a Letter to be made. And so that was years after when I came up with the idea. But then the book was published, and it's just been such an amazing wild ride to read to the kids. And so many people have come up to me and tell me how much they love the book, and not just kids, but parents too. And it's just so amazing. And thank you so much for your kind words. That means so much to me, and I'm really glad that we're able to provide that, not just for you, but for everyone in this community to give hope. Because like DJ said, hope is limitless.
My last question, what advice can you guys give us, like our parents, caregivers, on how to help you better or help better our children? Because sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough for my boys. So what advice would you guys give parents about how to help our children deal with the situation that they're in.
Well, first off, I want to say that you're an amazing mother and you're doing a great job and you love your kids so much, and I can see that through and through. As parents, I think, yes, Duchenne has its own challenges, but don't treat your child any different than you would someone else with Duchenne, because you're doing them a disservice by giving them special treatment, by giving them everything that they want, because then they're going to grow up and expect that, and then they're going to have issues in the future with caregivers and expecting them to give everything to them. And I think my parents gave me a lot of tough love, and I know that's really hard for some people, but that ultimately is going to do so much for them down the line.
Thank you so much.
I think.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for showing that it's possible. And also to the doctor, congratulations. I mean, your story is amazing. And like I told my boys, your life isn't easy. You just have to figure out another way to do things. And thank you. Thank you again.
I think, unfortunately, I would love to leave, have a whole bunch of more time for more questions, but we have to move on to the next session. But I just want to say something to you guys that, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, that I know that the Duchenne has taken away the physical strength, but the strength that it takes to sit up here and be vulnerable and share your story, and not just the celebrations, but the difficult things and some of the hard stuff and some of the dark times. That's reality, and that takes a lot of strength. And I know that I appreciate it, and I think everybody here appreciates it. So you guys are unbelievably strong in doing that. So thank you for sharing all of this today. I know all of you personally and DJ personally. Maybe you would be a little bit uncomfortable with saying that you guys are inspirations, but I would say that you're inspiring a lot of people, and that's huge. That has an enormous ripple effect. So thank you.